Hi everyone, I'm Romano Petrocchi, a PhD candidate in AI ethics, and welcome to my 5th class of the course Technology and Digitalization of Civic Participation. I'm going to share the slides and then we can start the class. Here we are. Today we are going to talk about digital platforms and democracy and how they impact on our democracy. This is a summary of the class. We will see how the shift from Web 1.0 to Web 2.0 has altered the concept of democracy, and we will see the meanings of Web 1.0 and 2.0. Then we will see how all of these impacted on political perception and discourse, and we will focus specifically on 3 different dimensions: the citizens' relationships, the national politics, and the global politics. And these are 3 fundamental aspects that have been impacted by the rise of digital platforms. Then we will see how the political micro-targeting, that is something that can happen on digital platforms, is changing the power dynamics of our democratic society. And before concluding, we will see how all of this is affecting our understanding of 2 concepts, 2 fundamental concepts of the democratic processes, which are the public sphere and the demos, that means the people. And this and the concept of the people has been disrupted by the advent of digital platforms. And then to conclude, we will see some future implications of the social media disruption. Right. What is this shift from Web 1.0 to Web 2.0? Social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on, are based on Web 2.0 technologies, which are technologies that combine the production and the sharing of the content. In this kind of web, users are no longer passive consumers, but active creators of information. And the Web 1.0 is the first phase of the web. It is static, a kind of static network, because the website acted as something in which the user didn't have any possibility to act in a direct way. So online newspapers, encyclopedias, in this kind of website, the users could just read. And for these reasons, users were considered passive consumers, unable to modify and interact with content. Instead, in Web 2.0, it is the current model, users have a new role. This web is an interactive and participatory network. Indeed, users create, share, and comment on content in real time. And examples are indeed digital platforms, as I said, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, in which people can upload their videos, their posts, they can share their posts, and so on. So this is a table summarizing the differences. In the first phase of the web, the content were created by few publishers and companies. In the second wave of the web, the content is created by everyone. So the ordinary users becomes content creator. In the first phase, there was a passive consumption of the content, and now there is an active interaction with the content. In the first phase, there were static pages, and now we have dynamic platforms. And in Web 1.0, we had a centralized information, while now we have a widespread creation of information. So you can see how this shift affected also the role of the people, of the users, of the digital users. And it has, this shift has an impact in our democratic systems, because the shift from Web 1.0 to Web 2.0 has changed the rules of political engagement. And this has brought some positive aspects, such as opportunities for democratic participation, because now anyone can express political opinions publicly. Movements, protests, and petitions can be organized without intermediaries, such as political parties, and traditional media monopolies are broken. So there are more voices that can be heard by anyone. And examples is the Arab Spring. Another one is the Fridays for Future movement, which are social media in which we express the power of social media as powerful tools for mass mobilization. The Arab Spring was a way of pro-democracy uprising across the Arab world, such as Egypt, Libya, and so on. And in this movement, social media played a super important role because they allowed for mobilization. Facebook and Twitter were used to organize protests and share real-time updates. For visibility, because social media brought local struggles to global attention with video and images that bypassed the state control, and they empower youth and marginalized groups to be heard. But also, digital platform had some limits and challenges to this movement, because online visibility didn't mean political stability, and then many revolts were followed by repression or civil war, such as in Libya, and platforms were used by both activists and authoritarian regimes for surveillance and propaganda. The title here is wrong. This slide is not referring to the Arab Spring, but to the Friday for Futures movement, which was a global climate strike movement started by Greta Thunberg in 2018. Young people around the world protested for the political class to do something for the climate change. And the role of social media here was a decentralized organization. Indeed, hashtags like Fridays for Future or climate strike spread rapidly. Social media amplified the voices because digital virality turned a solo protest into a global movement, and they allowed for connection between people because enabled coordination across countries, schools, and organizations. And there were also some digital features at play here, such as personalized content, which inspired local actions while keeping a unified message, and digital storytelling, such through photos and videos that created emotional engagement. And so the takeaways of this example are that social media can enable revolutions, but don't guarantee democratic outcomes, such as in the Arab Spring. And platform enabled a new form of digital native activism rooted in participation, emotion, and global solidarity, as in the global Fridays for Future movement. And so what all of this means for democracy? The shift from the first phase of the web to the second one has changed the rules of political engagement. And there are some risks and challenges to that, because not all information in the web, in Web 2.0 is reliable. There are many fake news that are spreading easily. Visibility favors emotion over substance, because algorithms reward sensationalism, and politics risk becoming entertainment or a meme war instead of informed debate. And this because there are some key features in our social media era, or more broadly in our digital platforms era. In today's digital communication, everyone is a broadcaster. There is no need for newspapers or TV. We can just read the news on our social media. There is a real-time interaction through comments, likes, shares, and there is also an algorithmic personalization. So each user sees a unique version of reality, and this creates, as we saw in our previous classes, polarization, echo chambers, filter bubble, and so on. And communication, in this sense, becomes fast, fragmented, emotional, and user-tailored. And this creates a very big difference from the past, because traditional political communication meant that messages were controlled by institutions such as media, parties, or the government, the state, and information was more uniform and centralized, and the political debate was slower, more reflective, and mediated. So this is a comparison between traditional communication and digital platform communication, centralized and institutional in the first phase, and now it is decentralized and user-driven. It was slow and reflective, and now is instant and reactive. It was characterized by uniform content, and now it is defined by personalized content, and so there are very different understanding of the same concepts within digital platform communication. And traditional communication was a top-down approach, and now it is peer-to-peer. And as I said, this has an enormous impact on our political perception and discourse. And so the advent of digital platforms really reshaped our democratic systems. Indeed, they have transformed the political engagement. Originally, this engagement was seen as democratic tools because it was empowered by it empowered the new political actors, enabled grassroots mobilization, and brought marginalized voices into public debate. An example is Obama's political campaign that effectively used social media. But they also raise some serious concerns, such as the use for disinformation, polarization, and social control. And they introduced complex ethical and political challenges, and we will see in a bit. So the effects on political perception are positive because they entail a real-time sharing of videos and images, and so there is this real connection with what is happening from any part of the world, and personal perspective on shared issues can be shared indeed. But there are also some negative effects, such as distorted understanding of opposing views and creation of filter bubbles and echo chambers. We talked about these phenomena in our fourth class, but I'm just going to recap the meaning of this phenomena. Filter bubble are online environments where algorithms show the users only content that aligns with their existing beliefs, and this bubble can be created due to limit exposure to diverse perspective. As I tried to explain in our previous class, there is no intentionality of the user in the creation of this bubble, while the echo chamber is different because it is a network where ideas are constantly repeated and reinforced by like-minded people, and there is intentionality of in these chambers. There is the intention to make different perspective don't enter the digital environment, and so it increases polarization and misinformation and disinformation. And now we can try to focus on the political implications of all of this. Digital platforms shape how citizens connect, communicate, and make decisions. Platforms are spaces for connection and discussion. Indeed, the algorithms influence our access to information, our communication styles, and our perception of others and the shared common good, and our collective decision making. And so this reshapes the boundary between the public and the private roles in digital lives, as information is no longer chosen autonomously and no longer private. So why all of these affected the citizen relationships? Because of the first cause is relativism and polarization. There is the end of a shared truth, because as we saw, the information and the exposure to the content is user tailored, and so there are many understanding of the same concept, many narratives of the same relating to the same concepts, and people who are subjected to one narrative doesn't have access to other type of narratives. Algorithms create personalized realities, so what you see depends on your click and not on common facts. And people are shown content that confirms their beliefs because algorithms are based and exploit the confirmation bias, and these avoids disagreement between people sharing the same understanding of the world. And so over time, this creates ideological echo chambers where dialogue becomes rare, different views are seen as threats, and trust in others erodes. And so the result is that citizens are divided into tribal groups that don't speak or listen to each other. The second cause is that digital platforms favor fast, emotional, and simplified communication, such as emojis, hashtags, memes, and short text types of text. We can think about the character limits on X, the digital platform, and this because rewards this happens rewarding outrage and viral content, not nuance or reasoning. Complex political ideas become sound bites, of course, and politicians adapt by performing for attention and not informing for action. And so also the behavior of the political class adapts to these digital mechanisms. And in this sense, the civic space online doesn't encourage listening or thoughtful debate, but it fuels division and emotional reaction, in this sense, weakening democracy's foundation. And we have effects also on our national politics, because these effects entail a fragmented democracy. We have a parallel information world. Citizens received filtered, customized content, created fragmented realities, and this can only undermine the democratic debate that relies on shared facts, common ground, and relational deliberation. And in this environment, people cannot debate if they do not agree on what is real. There is a decline of traditional media. Journals lose their role as a trusted filter. There are less funding for journals, fewer, and therefore this causes fewer investigations, less fact-checking. Platforms outcompete news in attention economy, and we saw this in our previous classes, and misinformation spreads faster than verified news. And the third aspect that is important to mention is that there is a rise of direct political influence, because politicians bypass institutions and speak directly via social media. personal accounts over party platforms. So in this sense, personal accounts of politicians are more important than the political parties, the institutional platforms, the institutional accounts, and messaging is tailored to emotions and not to policies. This means that the content becomes something that is not important for the debate. It is more important to trigger emotions. It is more important to trigger something that relates, that stimulates our fast way of thinking. And this because the direct political influence is being reshaped by the mechanisms at the basis of our digital platforms. And so all of this empowers populist leaders and weakens institutional checks and balances. And the conclusions are that digital platforms reshape power dynamics, weakening parties, media, and trust in institutions, and democracy becomes fragmented, noisy, and vulnerable. But there are also some effects on international politics because the digital interconnection transforms the intercultural communication and the global discourse. And these entail new opportunities for global activism because platforms connect people across borders like never before. And we can see that in movements that go global in days, such as the Fridays for Future or the Me Too movement. Citizens find transnational solidarity on climate, justice, or gender, and a global public sphere emerges. So that might be seen as more dynamic and inclusive, and we will see how this public sphere changes also in relation to the traditional public sphere. And the hope is that platforms can enable global citizenship across cultural and cross-cultural learning. But there are also some risks of digital globalization because there might be cultural misunderstanding that could spread faster, such as the reactions to Charlie Hebdo. I don't know if you remember in 2018, if I'm corrected, those different reactions were exposed to deep divisions in values and norms, and big tech became, in this sense, a transnational power, got a transnational power because they could influence local politics, and they could shape, in this example, norms in countries without local accountability, and this also transfer to any other example, to any other case, not just to the Charlie Hebdo example. So the platforms, in this sense, create a digital sovereignty gap who governs the global digital space, and this is an extremely important question that the political class should try to answer in order to get back and reaffirm its power. And so the conclusion is that digital platforms can foster unity or division. They create a global stage, but without democratic rules, this stage can easily be manipulated by profit or power. And indeed, the political micro-targeting is an example of that. Political micro-targeting is when political campaigns use AI-driven data analytics to target individual voters with customized messages based on personal data, such as behavior, interests, location, beliefs, and so on. And these messages are invisible to the public, are designed to trigger emotions, and often are not verifiable and misleading. And why they are dangerous? Because, of course, they undermine transparency. Voters receive different truths, and they are not aware of that. This distorts deliberation because citizens are manipulated rather than informed. and exploits vulnerability, especially those of undecided or emotionally reactive groups are the target of this political micro-targeting. And so democracy depends on public debate, we know that, but micro-targeting replaces dialogue with manipulative practices. Sorry? And this possibility of political micro-targeting has also changed the power asymmetry, the power symmetry of our society. AI power lies in the infrastructure. So real power of AI isn't just about the algorithms, it's in who controls the infrastructure behind them. And some key facts about that: over 55% of global cloud infrastructure is controlled by Amazon through the Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft through Azure. And this platform hosts the largest AI models, datasets, and tools used by companies, governments, and even NGOs. And so what this means, that control, there is this control over the cloud, control over data flows, training processes, and deployment policies. And whoever controls the infrastructure sets the limits and possibility of AI use worldwide. And so we can now understand how infrastructure control means power, because the Amazon Web Services powers major facial recognition systems, government surveillance tools, and corporate AI application. And so these infrastructures operate across borders, lack democratic oversight, and enable vast data extraction and centralization. And we can see how this is not just a tech issues, but it concerns the concepts, the fundamental concepts of our democratic state, such as sovereignty, power centralization, power concentration, and of course, all the dynamics of our democratic processes. So to summarize, micro-targeting personalizes political persuasion and bypasses the democratic debate. AI infrastructure centralize power in private hands, and in this sense, they shape what is possible in digital society. And so to safeguard democracy, we must regulate targeting practices, we must democratize infrastructure access, and enforce accountability at all layers, algorithmic, political, and infrastructural. And so we have a new democratic landscape in which citizens shift from autonomous to algorithm-shaped engagement. At the national level, there is a fragmentation, a loss of shared truths, a rise of direct leader voters channels. At the international level, there is a new global discourse, and big tech becomes sovereign powers. At the infrastructural level, there is a concentrated cloud, and AI power reshapes who governs the public sphere. And so we can see how the advent of digital platform and AI-based digital platforms reshaped our political dynamics. But there are also some conceptual transformation of democracy, and not just practical, as the allocation of power, as we saw in the previous slides, because social media has changed also the core democratic concept of public sphere and demos, because digital platforms have given most democratic citizens unprecedented access to communicative political action. And so participation now is low cost, real time, and easy to perform via user-friendly interfaces. And this marks a critical conceptual rupture for democracy. And yes, the new public sphere goes beyond geographic borders. There is, in this sense, a conceptual shift in the public sphere, because people outside traditional geographic boundaries of a democratic society can now join internal political debates. And the public sphere is then expanded and opened up both quantitatively and qualitatively. And the result of that is that the idea of a national public sphere becomes outdated. There are, of course, some important consequences, because anyone, anywhere can join the political debates about any country, and the public sphere then is no longer limited by national identity or borders. But traditionally, our public sphere was connected to the public debate of one single country. And if now this public sphere is infiltrated by people from any country, then in order to recreate a relationship between the political class, the government, the state, and the citizens, there is the need to answer some critical questions, such as where is the public sphere now? Because it is important to define the channels for the connection between the connection for creating these the public discourse. And so we need to know where the public sphere is. And another important question is, are we dealing with multiple public sphere? And this, of course, is a consequence of the first question, because we need that is always shaped by the need for defining where the public dialogue is going to happen. And or maybe we just accept and then act consequently that there might be just one global public sphere, and if this is the case, then we will need to reshape all our democratic processes. And what happens when the democratic discourse becomes globalized? This is extremely important, because national governments govern the democratic processes when political discussion are influenced by external voices. This is not entirely clear. And can democratic legitimacy be maintained when non-citizens shape internal agendas, political agendas? And these also, of course, entail many questions about the citizenship of people, and how citizenship mean if the public sphere is global, if the public dialogue, the public debate is global, and if the national public sphere doesn't exist anymore, or can just be compromised by living in digital platform. Yeah, the digital platforms engagement. And so these questions challenge the coherence of traditional democratic theory, especially ideas of self-government, citizen participation, and bounded political communities. And this is a sum up of the differences. In traditional democracy, we have a national public sphere, citizens-based demos, citizens-based concept of the people, geographic boundaries, and controlled access to public discourse. While in digital democracy, we have a globalized public debates, participation by citizens and non-citizens, borderless communication, and universal open access via social platform. But the public sphere is not just is not the only political concept that has been challenged by the advent of digital platform. Also, the concept of the people is being challenged because social media challenge these traditional concepts by allowing non-citizens, such as foreign companies, NGOs, or global users, to join domestic debates influence public opinion, shape national political agendas, and this create a disconnection that appears between those who debate and influence politics and those who have the right to vote and decide. And some democratic paradoxes arise here, because can a system still be governed by the people if non-citizens have equal access to political discourse? And the government by the people is a fundamental and key aspects and the basis of our society, of our common living. And so we need to try to answer to this new question. And is it legitimate to call it demos-based democracy when the political agenda is shaped beyond national borders? And this, of course, call into question the coherence of the democratic system as a self-government by a bounded people. And traditional democratic societies have always been open to foreign influence, but there are some differences with the foreign influence that has been made possible by our digital society, and specifically by digital platforms, because social media and AI-driven platforms have made this openness deeper, wider, faster, and less controllable. And this matters because algorithms might amplify foreign voices. Global platform can shape local debates, and national sovereignty over political discourse is then weakened. And so in the traditional view, we have the people, that means citizens only, and now we have the people, that means citizens plus external actors. Participation traditionally meant national right, and now participation means global access. And sovereignty over political discourse is a feature of our traditional understanding of democracy, and now we have algorithmic influence beyond borders. And political legitimacy traditionally was tied to voting, and now legitimacy is questioned due to outside interference. And there are some future implications of social media disruption. I tried to explain this, the new path that our political theory can take by outlining some important questions, the questions that I think are important. But there are also some political responsibility of engineers and designers, because the tech design, as we saw also in our previous classes, is never neutral. Algorithmic and interfaces design has political consequences, choices about what users see, how they interact, what content spreads. All of these are design choices and impact democratic processes. So there is the need for a democratic oversight over this aspect, and scholars, some scholars have suggested that involving citizens, juries in platform policy designs, and big tech must be treated as political entities and not just as private companies. And there are also some legal and security frameworks that might be applied to try to overcome the limits and the challenges entailed by digital platforms' advent, to cope with the erosion of state sovereignty, for example, because global platforms transcend national borders and governments struggle to regulate what happens outside the jurisdiction, but vulnerability can empower dissidents. So this is an important aspect. I want to make the case of Baba Jukwa in Zimbabwe. Concerning the erosion of state sovereignty, as I said, global platforms transcend national borders and governments struggle to regulate what happens outside their jurisdiction. And this example relates to an anonymous feedback account that during the 2013 Zimbabwe election claimed to be an insider from the ruling party and shared sensitive information on government corruption, human rights violation, and secret national and military grants. And it was super popular and enabled citizens to bypass the state censorships. And the government, in this sense, failed to trace or shut down the account. And so this is an example of some positive political implication of digital platform, because it enabled freedom of expression under an authoritarian rule. It created a parallel public sphere online, highlighted the power of global platforms to protect dissidents. It showed also the problem of the lack of accountability in anonymous content, and big tech companies acted as a political gatekeeper without democratic legitimacy. And this case shows how digital infrastructures, not just users or content, play a crucial role in enabling or restricting the democratic action. And so also in this sense, it is important that we might rethink the role of big tech companies, not just as private companies, but with a public role. And so, we need to think also some implications of that is that we might rethink our way to do politics. Social media change how politics is practiced, from institutional to networked activism, from hierarchical to horizontal organization. And so the concept of connective action, change, because no formal structure or centralized leadership is now possible. Personalized engagement is only possible via digital networks. And these are the examples that I made at the beginning of the class. And so what we have learned to this class, that social media are not just digital tools, but they play an active role as political actors. There is a lack of global regulation that makes them a risk to democracy, and the democratic theory must consider the challenges and the changes that digital platforms and social media brought in, and democratic theory must evolve with digital reality, must engage non-Western traditions, as Diliotti notes, and this is one of the references that I suggest to consult to focus, to deepen the topic of this class, and to focus. Democratic theory must also focus on inclusive, cross-cultural democratic models. And so the future of democracy depends on how we rethink its concepts, tools, and practices in a digitally connected world. As usual, I want to leave you with some final questions. How do digital platforms affect democratic participation? What is a key risk of algorithmic personalization? And why is platform design a political issue? I will provide the answer to these questions after the course. These are some selected references, and the last reference is the one that I just mentioned, Social Media and Democracy. But these are all important for the topic of our class. I hope that everything was clear, and see you in our next class.